Welcome, everyone, to tonight's City Council meeting. The Mayor Betke is out of town, so I will be your host this evening and acting mayor. We're also expecting Councilor Lewis in just a couple minutes. Tonight we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Bryce will start us with that.
For those that are able, please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Bryce.
You're welcome.
It is National Pollinator Week, which you might have noticed by the amount of pollen in the air right now. So we do have a proclamation, and it only has 6 whereases. So, whereas pollinator species such as birds, bats, bees, and other insects play a vital role in producing crops grown in the United States, ensuring Americans have a variety of fruits, vegetables, and nuts to support a healthy diet. And whereas pollinators provide significant environmental benefits that are necessary for maintaining healthy, diverse ecosystems in towns and cities. And whereas pollinator-friendly communities can benefit local and regional economies through healthier ecosystems, increased vegetable and fruit crop yields, and increased demand for pollinator-friendly plant materials from local growers. And whereas pollination plays a vital role for the trees and plants of our community, enhancing our quality of life and creating recreational and economic development opportunities. And whereas pollinators are essential for healthy, biodiverse ecosystems across public and private lands. And whereas the City of Moscow manages public lands, including parks, public landscaping, greenways, and wildlife habitat throughout the City of Moscow. And now, therefore, I, Julia Parker, acting mayor of the City of Moscow, do hereby proclaim June 16th through June 22nd, 2025 as National Pollinator Week.
Woohoo! Great.
Right on. Great. So we're going to have David Schott take it to celebrate National Pollinator Week.
Try not to sneeze.
Oh, sorry, guys. Coincides with that.
Here you are. Hello.
You missed the 6 whereases.
Yeah, there were lots.
So much.
That's week. Pollinator week.
Sure. Yes, that'd be great.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, thank you, members of council. Thanks for having us there tonight. With June being National Pollinator Week coming up here in later June, I would want to point out a couple resources for those watching. The Bee City USA subcommittee is partnered with the Parks and Recreation Commission, and they are co-hosting a booth at the Farmers Market on June 14th. So if you want to talk pollinators, come on down. We'll have a very knowledgeable group with the Bee City USA subcommittee there to answer any questions you have about pollinators. And then on our city website under Parks, Public Works and Services, the Bee Cities USA subcommittee has also put out some great resources for some great plants for pollinators and some local nurseries where they have nice pollinator plants. So I just wanted to point that out to all those that are watching. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
David. All right. Next on the agenda is our consent agenda. Any item on the consent agenda can be removed by a member of council and voted on separately. These are usually routine matters that we've already talked about in the administrative committee or in Public Works and Finance.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second. All right. Bryce?
Aye.
Sandra?
Aye.
Gina?
Aye.
Haley? Aye. Great. Next on the agenda is our time for public comments. You can comment on anything having to do with the city that is not on tonight's agenda or is coming before planning and zoning. Or what's the
Board
other
of
one?
Adjustments.
Board of Adjustments. Last time I made Bill write all this down for me. I'm doing it from
Doing great,
memory.
Julia.
We do ask that people keep their comments to 3 minutes, and we will have a total of 15 minutes for public comment. Would anyone like to come up and give public comment? All right, please give us your name and where you live.
Hi, y'all. My name's William. I live here in Moscow, Idaho. I'm the owner of Shagets Bagels. We just started the farmer's market. Everything's going great. I would love to talk to you about that, but unfortunately, we have some terrible people in this town again. I want to see a show of hands here. How many people in this room heard about the firebombing attack of the Jews in Colorado? Anybody? One person in the crowd? 2, 3, 4? Okay. Yeah, so nobody knows about it. I posted about this and multiple times, and everyone in this community is complicit in quietness. Nobody comments, nobody says anything. You know, I want you to understand that, does anyone even know the names of the two Israeli peace activists that were murdered in DC? Their names are Sarah and Yaron. You know, and there are people in this community, specifically the Palouse DSA, a particular leader by the name of Christian Lamprecht that has been going after me repeatedly. I'm in the process of filing right now a civil suit against him and possibly the DSA because they literally called me and my business genocidal baby killers just because we've got Israeli friends and family members. You know, and I want to be very clear. You know, the group that the DSA the Palouse DSA is connected to the PSL, the Party for Socialist Liberation. The Party for Socialist Liberation literally said that the attacks of those two people in DC were justified. They glorified in their murders. They glorified in the fact that 84-year-old hostage, or Holocaust victim was burned with gasoline. You know, and you know what both people scream? Free Palestine. What is that freeing? It's not freeing anything. Everyone in this community, I'm not going to be, I'm really hesitant to this because I don't want this with my business because it's separate from this, but 90% of this community are completely ignorant to what is actually going on in the Middle East, and they're perfectly fine telling Jews like myself in this community that they know better than us. It is horrible. It's been 600 days of gaslighting, and it's by people in this community, and you know, we Jews like myself have been screaming that the Intifada is coming. The Intifada is coming. And we've all been, oh, you're overreacting. No, stop gaslighting Jews like me. Like, it is here. It is already here. Students in this town are screaming, you know, like, globalize the Intifada. Like, they're here. You know, you know, there's a kid within the Palouse DSA at the library room that literally said, I can't go up and talk to people because I get so angry I might kill somebody. You know, I've had to go to the University of Idaho and tell them this. I've had to go to police and nobody does anything. You know, like, it is, the extremism is here. You know, there's too far, like I like to say, too far to the right, too far left. You can't have a beer with somebody. And these people, and I haven't had any problems with conservatives. You know, it has been my fellow liberals that are the most ugly, vile human beings I have ever seen. And they glorify any time a human being that's from Israel, whether it's Arab, Druze, you know, Jewish, dies. They glorify that.
Your time's up.
Okay. We need to do something. There needs to be something within this community that we have educators come in and talk to people about this, because I'm honest, I walk around, like, not here obviously, but I finally started walking around with an open carry on me because something's going to happen. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to comment? All right, moving on, we have a report regarding the Moscow Mountain Powell Project Trail build with David Schott. Welcome, David.
Thank you, members of council. Thanks for having us tonight. So we've got the Mamba report tonight for you, and I would like to first introduce Chris Chambers. Chris attended the University of Idaho and Washington State University and has lived in Moscow since 2000. He currently works at Meter Group in Pullman and is the president of Mamba Trails, an all-volunteer trails nonprofit organization in Moscow here. So Chris will be given the Powell Project report tonight, the trail build report. I would like to take a little bit of an opportunity here and thank Mamba very much for all the work they had done up there. So they really did a lot of hard work to create recreational space at the 20 acres city of Moscow Mountain. As a parks guy, I love seeing people outside and recreating. And so this was a great project. I know they put a lot of work into it, and they were a real pleasure to work with. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chris.
Thank you, David. Again, my name's Chris, and the Powell Project, just to refresh people's memories, is a collaboration between the City of Moscow and Mamba Trails and members across the spectrum from the Moscow community. The Powell parcel on Moscow Mountain was donated to the City of Moscow in 1941 for watershed and recreational purposes and no other. And we've recently had the fabulous opportunity to go up and build some trails and connect it with the existing Moscow Mountain Trail Network. It was approved on January 17th, 2023 by the City of Moscow. Thank you, City Council members. And it's about 20 acres. For those of you familiar with Moscow Mountain, it's near Four Corners, relative to the city. It's all up here, with the town of Moscow being down here. And it kind of crosses this ridge between two roads. Just to fill in a bit of background about the Moscow Mountain area, it's almost exclusively private land. The University of Idaho has their experimental forests up there. Bennett Lumber Products is one of the largest landowners. And in addition to the City of Moscow, there are many, many smaller landowners. So Mamba comes in. We're originally a mountain bike organization, but we really embrace anyone who wants to use the trails up there. So we're a trails organization and not just a bunch of unruly mountain bikers. Outdoor recreation is well documented to have many benefits to the community. Everything from better health outcomes to economic benefits. Even though we're not really a mountain biking destination city.
Yet.
I didn't say that. But if you look through the promotional material for the City of Moscow by the Chamber of Commerce, Schweitzer Engineering Labs, most of the big employers in the community point to proximity to the trail network on Moscow Mountain as one of the reasons to come live here and work here. So even the intangible things are an economic benefit. And I'm sure our youth mountain bike team members that are in the audience would back that up. And you can visit our website at mambatrails.org if you would like any more information about what we do, upcoming events, or if you'd like to become a member or support Mamba. So we're not just about the trails, we're about bringing the community together. So specific to the Powell Project, we had over 400 volunteer hours. That's a really conservative number. Over a dozen individual builds. It's been about 2 years in process. The asterisk, of course, is because we can't build over the winter. So it's been build, summer, winter, build again. And we have about 2+ miles of new trail. That is located, here's the actual map. This is what the trails look like. This is the south side. Again, here's Four Corners parking. And now we have 4 nice new lovely trails that we are ready to invite folks to come up on the mountain to run, ride, just stroll around or go for a hike.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Who comes up with the names?
There's a long tradition in trail building where the trail builders name the trails, but this was a collaborative effort where we had board members, some folks that helped build the trails, come up with several different names, and then the trail build leaders voted on those names, and they all mean something.
Sure.
Needle Drop is one of the steepest parts of the mountain where we have trails, and it actually changes to a larch forest right there. So you kind of get to drop into these dropping needles.
Thank you.
It seems fair that the people who are busting their keisters have some input.
It's really difficult because there's so many people involved that it's actually quite a challenge to
Narrow it
come
down.
up with 4 names. And just a few photos of kind of the work going on. These are photos of the trail build happening. There's a few finishing touches left on the mountain, but we've really had people from all across the Palouse, the U of I and WSU ski teams chipped in. Meter Group had a volunteer day up there. A couple of fraternities and sororities from the University of Idaho have been up to help out. And it's a very neat section of the forest on Moscow Mountain with a very nice view to the north side, which we don't have that many trails that give you north-facing views. And again, I can't stress how many people contributed to making this happen. So it's easy to just come up as the president of Mamba and be like, yay, look what we did. But again, thanks to the city council, all of the members of Moscow and everyone who likes to go on the trails. So we would like to invite the city council, any representatives from the city of Moscow and the public in general to come out on National Trails Day for a hike or a bike. That's this Saturday, June 7th. And we'll meet at, there's not much parking up there. So we'll have some shuttles. We'll meet at Trail Landing, lower down on the mountain at 10:15. And then we can carpool up. And I hope to see you all there.
Thank you. Any questions?
Can I answer any further questions?
Madam Chair, I have a question, if
Sure.
that's okay. So I'm used to having our street folks like tell us like what the normal accepted grade is for like a highway or shoulders and things like that. And I'm realizing that it's not just about a bunch of people who want to full send down a mountain and identify like the most fun turns. So I'm curious where like the resident expertise comes from in building these trails in terms of like safety or like erosion control.
Sure.
Is there trail guidance documents? Like, how do you know what degree is not a
There-
safe degree to full send down a hill?
There absolutely are some guidelines for this. We used the International Mountain Bike Association's guidelines for trail building. How to build sweet single track, I think is what it's called.
Nice.
But it has guidelines for safety, for erosion control, and things like that. We have some very experienced trail builders here as well. I do want to acknowledge Rolling Hills Bicycle and not only Colin, many members of Mamba and former members of Mamba and just interested trail volunteers come out to help out. So we really have a large pool of people to pull from, and some of them have built many, many miles of trail before.
And my only other follow-up, Madam Chair,
It's Madam Acting Mayor.
I was going to say, chair of the working board, whoever's here, Madam Acting Mayor.
just like that. Madam Acting Mayor.
Dr. Madam Acting Mayor.
We'll go with that.
Okay, I can do that. Is maintaining trails easier or harder than initial trail work?
That
It can be your hot take. It doesn't have
I'm-
to be consensus, but
I think it's about 50-50. Well, personally, and I think there's several people that would back me up. You want to back me up, Sandra? I don't think a trail is ever done. So, you get to a point where you can ride it, and then we constantly have people out, tweaking this corner this way or that, or clearing down logs, or places where there could be some improvement to prevent erosion control. And I would like to add on these trails that we have a nice cross section of difficulties for these. One of the trail is rather technical, a little more challenging from experienced riders. They'll be clearly marked so that people know what they're getting into. And other trails are more mellow and more flowy, and you can just kind of enjoy just kind of sloping down the mountain.
And are e-bikes frowned upon
E-bikes are not frowned upon.
officially?
Class 1 e-bikes are welcome anywhere on the mountain. And where the line gets drawn is on anything with a throttle that can start tearing up trails.
That makes sense. Thank you, Dr. Madam Chair.
I'm not even going to go with the title because I get all bumbled up.
We're just
So
making them up.
I'll just say, hey, Julia, can I say something?
That works too.
I'm so glad that you're here tonight. I was just, for whatever reason, I was driving around doing errands. I thought, wow, I wonder what we could do with Mamba to help them get more into our neighborhoods and our green spaces. Because I know Sandra and I have talked about that a little bit before. And so I was thinking about new housing development. So I went, oh my gosh, it's been like not very long. I wonder what's going on up in the trail. So when I got this in my packet, A, I was really excited. And B, I can't believe you're this far along. I mean, it's not very long. So I have no trouble believing when you say there are actually a lot more people that help. That's true. I mean, working at Idaho, I've had a couple of students that have helped now and again and heard some little bits and pieces, but not a lot. And it's just amazing that you have this. I've done a small amount of trail work just for hiking trails, and I have no embarrassment saying I hate it. It's awful. I hope I never have to build another trail again in my life, which probably means I'll have to build many. But I just want to say well done. This is really exciting, and it's such a great mountain biking community. And I know you're trying to grow that, and I think it is growing. But that we have this here basically in our backyard is astounding. So just congratulations.
Thank you very much. And thank you, City Council and City of Moscow for helping us make this happen.
Nice try, but Bryce has
I've
a question.
got something for you, Chris, but I appreciate the
I
sentiment.
wasn't sure if David was
Yeah.
here to escort me out.
David had the hook.
Yeah.
Like Sandra, I was excited to see this come across our agenda as well. And I remember Sandra's presentation from last year, so I was excited to follow up again this year and see kind of the new work that you all have been doing. And I asked a similar question last year that I'm going to re-ask. With regards to like the multi-use of the trail, whether that be hikers, trail runners, mountain bikers, what is either the educational outreach that goes on like how to use the trail effectively? Because if you've got a family that's hiking, right, and you've got a mountain biker coming down, what's the etiquette there? How do we make sure that everybody's safe and enjoying the space? Like, what is there outreach that happens kind of in that state?
Right.
Yeah.
There is, and it's an ongoing effort.
Sure.
We do have signs, new trail signs going up. I think everyone's well, I'm not going to say everyone's favorite Parks and Rec person, but Mike Ray's out there helping put some signs up at trailheads. So we have etiquette signs there.
Great.
And this is a challenge we face that we're trying to address because we don't really worry about members of Mamba Trails, not knowing the etiquette, but we're a small portion of the trail using population. And so that's our challenge is how do we reach beyond our membership base? I hope we can grow our membership and bring more people in and also be trail advocates when we're on the trail. And if we see someone that just doesn't know no trail etiquette or maybe lost or maybe looks like they're pretty new up there, to just stop and help them out.
Great. Thank you. And then one quick follow-up. How's the team? What is it, the mountain biking team? Is that what you all are on?
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Can we hear a little bit about the mountain biking team? And
I'm definitely not the expert for that. I could give you a brief. Come up. Great.
Sorry to put you on the spot, but it piqued my
One of the
interest.
coaches up here to talk more about that.
That's always exciting to know. Yeah. You can sit cool in the back.
So I'm Virginia Ginger Yoder, and I'm one of the coaches. I've been coaching for about 4 years. My son is on the team, and we've grown substantially. I think there was about 15, 18 students my first year, and we had over 30 registered students this year.
Awesome.
And as you were asking the question about the trail users, I know we work really hard with our teens, our kids to work on knowing who yields to who, making sure that our kids are aware of all of the etiquette for the trails. And we've actually gotten a lot of really good feedback this spring about our kids slowing down, talking to people, saying hi. We've gotten great feedback from them. So they're learning. And yeah, it's a middle high school team, expanding to 5th graders this year. So
And
yeah.
can they sign up? Can interested kids sign up through the website? Is that the best
Yep.
way
So
to
we
do
have a fall and spring season. There are meet the team rides, so kids can come try it before they sign up. It's through the Washington Student League. Because we're a Palouse team, and that's the closest group that we work with. Idaho's teams are based out of Boise, so it's even further. And so we ride with Washington Student League. So all the insurance and the expectations and the background checks and everything go through them. And so actually interested adults, if you are interested in coaching, we're always looking for more adult coaches as well. And yeah, any teen who wants to come out and check us out, it's a really great experience.
That's cool. Thank you.
Yep.
Sorry to put you on the spot,
No,
but I was
I
curious.
love talking.
All right. Thank you.
All right, any more questions, comments, thoughts? Thank you.
Thank you for having us tonight.
Thank you so much.
Next on the agenda is task order number 9, Palouse Basin Alternate Water Supply Project. I expect catchier titles.
Full send, Tyler.
I kind of felt good that the only acronym in there was in the consultant name, so I thought we were getting ahead, Madam Mayor,
All right.
Council. I'm very excited to be here to present this item. This is historic, and that's not an exaggeration. And so, Madam Acting Mayor and Council, happy to be here to present the task order number 9, which is a real dry name for something that's actually very exciting: the Palouse Basin Alternate Water Supply.
I get it. Funny.
I work on these. I practice in front of the mirror. It's a whole thing.
Point.
Quick recap. I know that the council is well versed in this, and we've hammered this a billion times, but for the sake of anybody listening and recap, we are in what's called the Palouse Groundwater Basin. The Palouse Groundwater Basin is the sole source of drinking water for the cities of Moscow, Pullman, both universities, the University of Idaho and Washington State University. These are the major pumpers in the basin. So all 4 of those entities have a water system. And there are some additional smaller cities that also utilize this basin, notably Palouse, Uniontown, some of those areas out in Whitman County. But really the eastern edge of Moscow is the edge of the basin. So this basin has existed for a long time, but has been tapped for water since the late 1800s. Since it was tapped, it was quickly realized that the water levels were declining. This was something that was known. It started as artesian wells, very productive artesian wells, water just coming out of the ground. We have thick clay layers. You get that weight on it, you pop a hole in it, you get weight on a basically bladder of water underground, up comes the water. But really rapidly, it went from artesian wells to pumping from 5 feet down to 10 feet down to 20 feet down, et cetera, et cetera. And so over the years, there's been several efforts at trying to address this issue and trying to diversify our water sources. This resulted in the formation of what's called the Palouse Basin Aquifer Committee, PBAC. And PBAC is a cooperative entity that is really unique. And I'm really proud that the city of Moscow is a part of, and that I get the opportunity to represent Moscow on this committee. I think it's unique in the country. There's so much cooperation around water in this basin, and that is unique. The fact that we're working cooperatively rather than doing the old Western mantra of whiskeys for drinking, waters for fighting. We've done a good job working collaboratively, and this project is an example of that. So as I mentioned, the water levels have been in decline. That decline was as much as 3 feet per year at certain points in our history. It's down to 0.71 feet per year is what we're seeing. A lot of that can be attributed to conservation in the basin. That you look at the water use in our basin, despite a 35% population growth since 1992, which was when the groundwater management plan was established in our basin, we use less water in the city of Moscow now than we did then. And that is just because per person we're using less. And that's our residents responding to conservation efforts, which is really great. Despite that, we continue to see this pattern. We continue to see a decline, which is called mining an aquifer, and we can't do that. It's not a sustainable practice. And one of the things I love about working in local government is that we get to work on things that really impact people, existential things. And there's nothing more so than water. Making sure that our residents have a safe and sustainable drinking water supply is paramount. So in pursuit of that effort, several alternatives were identified. There was a study done in 2016 that identified different water alternatives and ranked them according to a number of different measures, including likelihood of ability to get permits, impact of climate change over time, ability to get water rights, the percentage of supply that might be available based on when the supply was needed, and then based on the overall supply that was available. That resulted in our first effort, the first project, which was a series of projects that we looked at, were all within the basin. We wanted to make sure that we looked inside our basin first. And so we looked at some of the bodies of water, which, as any resident of the area knows, are all smaller bodies of water. But we looked if we could do kind of the equivalent of Moneyball. Can we take a look at all of these in the basin and put something together that might work? Ultimately, as we went through that project, it just didn't pan out. There's not enough water. The treatment costs are too high. Your cost per acre foot gets really high, and it's just flat out not enough water to provide what would be needed. And so the Clearwater River has been identified as a likely alternative for our water supply. I think that for us, since we've had water that we've pumped right out from under our feet, that can seem like a long way to go to get water. When you talk in the context nationally and internationally, it's really not. This is not uncommon. We aren't going to have to invent new technology for this. This isn't something that any engineering firm looks at and says, "Oh, we've never seen anything like this." These are things that are done and done routinely around the country and around the world, but it is new for us. And so this is, we pursued and received funding from the Idaho Division of Water Resources in the amount of $182,500 toward design work on this alternative. This is the initial design work. We've done some very preliminary work with the study that was done in 2019. This is a continuation. And what this really tries to answer are those critical questions to identify any potential real hurdles or poison pills for this potential alternative. And so that is what is before you today is task order number 9 with HDR Engineering. It's coming before you as a task order because HDR Engineering is on our roster for this type of engineering service. They were selected through an RFQ process where submittals were accepted and reviewed by a panel that included representation from the Nez Perce tribe, from several of the participating members of the Polluted Space and Aquifer Committee. So HDR Engineering, once selected, the scope of services was negotiated. The project total, $335,841. As I mentioned, $182,500 was committed by the Idaho Water Resource Board. And the Polluted Space and Aquifer Committee in their May meeting voted to authorize PBAC through the U of I as their fiscal agent to enter into a contract with the city of Moscow for $187,000. What that represents is the remaining $153,500 for the $153,341, excuse me, for the project total of $335,841 plus a 10% contingency for the overall project. So that's what was authorized by PBAC. This project has a 12-month timeline for the work. The study has 4 major components that I'll review quickly. 1, water supply assessment. We're going to be looking at assessing the water availability, seasonal and long-term variation. We're going to determine the optimal point of diversion. Any of you have driven down Highway 12 there, it's pretty confined. It's pretty tight in there. And you know, there's some restricting factors, including the highway. There's the dam down there. There's some minimum stream flow areas, and then you get into tribal land. And so it's not unlimited, the area that we could divert from. So that's something we really have to take a look at. Assess the impacts of climate variation, weather conditions on supply. There's a conceptual design development component to this, and that includes conceptual design for intake, pumping, treatment, storage, and conveyance of the water. These are all just necessary components that basically mean get it up the hill and treat it so we can use it. We need to identify anticipated property acquisitions and easements. And so just taking a look at what does that mean? What paths might we take and what properties might be involved? How complicated might that be? One of the things that we really are committed to is having this information and having it well established and doing this through a very public process so that we can have these conversations. We don't want to have this be the case where the first time a key stakeholder hears about this is when they see a map with a line going across their property or something that impacts them. That's not how we want this to roll out. We want this to be a very collaborative process. And then also evaluate direct use versus aquifer recharge. This will be an interesting component of this analysis. You know, once we get it up the hill, you know, there's a lot of obstacles. Can we get the water? Can we site the water? Can we treat the water? Can we get all the permits necessary? Can we get it up the hill? Can we get the rights for it? Once we do that, what do we do with it? And so then we'll have to analyze whether it makes more sense to treat that. Regardless, we have to treat it to drinking water quality standards. And so then the question will have to be answered is, does it make more sense to do that and then put it in the aquifer and let the aquifer be the storage, and then keep all of our current extraction and distribution infrastructure in place? Or does it make sense to have some sort of direct connection both to our water system and then across the border to our Washington partners? And then big component, how much is this going to cost? Preliminary cost estimation is also included in this scope. There's the regulatory permitting assessment. This is not insignificant. There are a lot of different regulatory agencies and considerations that we want to make sure that we stay abreast of, and that we are making sure that we can assure feasibility through all of these paths. And that includes the regulatory requirements from the local, state, and federal level, as well as tribal considerations. We need to conduct any necessary environmental assessments. As we build out the scope, it will become clear which level of environmental assessment may be necessary for this. And then consult with all key regulatory agencies, key stakeholders. And we want to do that, as I mentioned, early and often, which leads me into the next point, which ultimately this would result in the preparation of a water right application with the Idaho Division of Water Resources. Stakeholder engagement is the fourth component. We wanted to make sure that this stood alone as a component of this study so that we were able to emphasize the importance of this. And so this component of the work that we are contracting for includes conducting outreach with stakeholders, public agencies, community groups, affected parties, collaboration with the Nez Perce tribe. We really want to make sure we're respecting their water rights and their cultural values through this process. And so we're excited. I think that this is the right move for us as a basin. I think that we have to continue to actively work on this. About 10 years ago, there was a real commitment on the part of the Palouse Basin Aquifer Committee, as we listened to our elected leaders and listened to folks with our regulatory agencies, for us to really move into an action phase and move toward trying to make some things happen. And that's been happening. And this is a really significant next step in that process. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions that you all might have about task order number 9 and its components.
I feel like I have a new question every time I see this presentation, Tyler, so I appreciate that very much. I just want to make sure that I'm correct in my thinking, because I'm often not. This is basically sort of like almost a discovery process, like nothing is happening. You're putting money forth to figure out how it works and then to explain people how it works. They will have time to ask questions like, this doesn't make sense. It looks like it all fall into the clear water and it'll be gone. Or, I mean, I'm thinking all weird things, right? So this is really, for the most part, really hardcore discovery. Is that fair?
I think that's fair, Councilor Kelly. I think that this is very preliminary. There's been enough work done to lead us to believe that this is a worthwhile investment of these funds.
Sure.
The 2019 paper looked at just some general feasibility. How can you pump the water up? Are there rights available technically? Is the water treatable? We know that it is. There's already municipal uses from there. What's the volume at the river there, and what do we represent? It can seem like a lot when we talk in the water world about the numbers, but actually one way that we're fortuitous with the dry farming is that we represent a very small amount of water because it is just domestic use. Yeah. And so, for example, at the low flow times of this river, the minimum stream flow, low flow times, we represent less than 1/4%. And so that much information enough to know, okay, this is worth looking at. But yes, you're correct. This is that. We've got about 2% now that make us know that, okay, there's not an absolute brick wall in front of us, but this is trying to get to that 10% of, okay, let's get after this with more sobriety.
And then follow up if that's all right.
Yeah.
And then just the other component of this, what is, assuming we're all like, yep, great, do it, and whoever else has to give the thumbs up, what's your timeline of trying to accomplish all this?
This is a 12-month process. Okay. And I think the timeline that we have is fairly feasible. The one thing that we are committed to, though, is accuracy is more important than speed at this point in the process. And so if it ends up taking a little bit longer, that's something that there's not some sort of Damocles at 12 months waiting to fall. So as far as approvals go, the the city of Moscow's, the Idaho Division of Water Resources and the Water Resource Board contract is with the city of Moscow. That's something that this body has already approved. Because the money is coming through the Water Resource Board, it's an Idaho project. Therefore, the city of Moscow is administering this. And so this is the final approval before the project launches. So with the approval of the Moscow City Council, the project will launch.
Thank you very much.
Other questions? Yep.
And I think this actually builds on Sanders' questions pretty nicely. With regards to kind of like community, stakeholder and public feedback through this process, will that mainly happen after the 12-month completion of this, or will they have opportunity during the next 12 months to provide feedback? Because last week at admin, when you presented this to us, a community member who I'm surprised isn't here tonight because he definitely cares a lot about the water issues, David, who I'm referencing, came up and asked Sandra and I and provided like a question/comment to us. And just thinking of him and thinking of others that are like-minded in his, others that are like-minded, what is the opportunity for him to offer his feedback and others that may share similar or opposing positions? through
Absolutely.
this process.
We have included in the scope laying out a plan for that public involvement and outreach. With this phase of the project being really a discovery phase, it will be, I don't want to say less robust, but we have to appropriately size the public outreach to what we're actually doing.
For sure.
But a couple of the touch points that we know we will certainly have is, for example, the stakeholder engagement group, that we have a robust list of stakeholder engagement group, which includes Mr. David Hall is on that group. And a formal meeting is included in this scope with the stakeholder engagement group, as well as our research colloquium, which is reaching out to our academic community. We've got a lot of really smart people who work in these fields in the community, and we've already developed that through the Pollution Space and Aquifer Committee. And so re-engaging with those groups, formal presentation and coordination with the Tribal Executive Council is also included in that. And then, inevitably, there's going to be several presentations that come before our elected bodies, in both cities and both counties. And so there'll be opportunities there. And then there will be certain touch points where it will likely be very appropriate for us to have things like some sort of open house, whether that be a digital open house, an online open house, or a physical open house. We really want to try and customize our outreach plan to where we know different people like to communicate in different ways. And so that's not completely formulated yet, but certainly those touch points have been formalized, being the stakeholder engagement group, the research colloquium, the Nez Perce tribe. And so we really want to provide that opportunity.
Thank you, Tyler.
Tina,
I think you had questions first, didn't you?
You go.
Okay,
I'm going to lay it on thick. so.
mine's quick. Mine's quick, not as thick as Haley's. For the time that I spent on PBAC and this much of the understanding of things, I'm kind of jazzed to see that aquifer recharge is part of this discovery process. Hallelujah. This really makes me happy. Just keep saying that to me and this stakeholder will be happy.
you got one.
Got one.
Madam
Yes.
Mayor,
go
Chair.
ahead.
Tyler, I was going to also, because I'm glad that you mentioned we are 0.25% of what the Clearwater puts out, because as a fan of a recreator on the Clearwater, I know that would be a question we'd get from the community. The other thing I was going to lay on thick as far as context, like if it feels like we've been funding or approving like no action, I want to like reiterate that to your point and to Sandra's point, like discovery is still like a really big deal for us. And the allegory that I just wrote down was like, it's like we went from rezoning a neighborhood and now we're like at a house plan status. Like we're not approving like what the actual design of the house is going to be or how many bedrooms, but like we're at the point where it feels like we're actually talking about making moves. And that is a really big deal. And this is the closest step for the doing. I didn't know, Tyler, the other thing you had mentioned in the PBAC meeting 3 weeks ago, I had asked the same question there, and I want to ask it here about with the Lewiston Orchards Irrigation District also navigating their own water rights conversation. Can you give a little color to even some of the existing collaboration that your team's going through with the LC Valley? Because we're potentially all looking at poking straws in the same juice box.
Mm-hmm. Certainly. Yeah, I think that's a great question, Councilor Lewis. Thank you. As I mentioned, there's already municipal use in this area. The city of Lewiston has long drawn water from the Clearwater River. They are in the process of building a new intake point on the river, and they're currently doing their in-river work on that and seeking funding to complete that project. And so really they're just moving their intake. Their current intake spot isn't working as well for them. And so they're trying to move their intake. Mayor Betke, City Administrator Bill Belknap, and myself went down and met with the City of Lewiston, with Mayor Johnson, and with representatives from the Idaho Division of Water Resources, the Department of Environmental Quality, and we had an extensive conversation about the possibility for some sort of collaboration. We were able to talk to them about their project. They were able to talk to us about our project, and included in this scope of work is also collaboration with the City of Lewiston, taking a look at what they're doing, seeing if there might be some opportunities for synergy. In addition, Lewiston Orchards Irrigation District, Mike Fophill, the PBAC Executive Director, and myself met with them starting 18 months ago. They have a project that is underway for a new extraction point from the Clearwater River. Theirs is on the other side of the river, where they will be pulling water up and pumping it up the hill. A very similar project, really. They're pumping it up the hill. Theirs is for irrigation purposes, so they're not having to treat it domestically. And obviously, we've got a little bit more elevation that we've got to pump, but there are several lessons to be learned there. We actually participated. We presented to the Idaho Water Resource Board. They were in town in Moscow last week, and we were able to present to their board and actually took a field trip down with the Lewiston Orchards irrigation folks and looked at their project site, and were able to talk to that with their engineers. And so there's really been a good communication between the entities, and really a commitment to explore opportunities for collaboration.
Thank you. And then,
Haley, can I follow up on
oh,
something?
go for it.
real
Yeah.
quick?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Great, thanks. That just made me think, and I've thought about this before, and it just hasn't come up at the right time. So, I mean, great that looking at Lewiston and whatnot, I might be assuming this, but the fish hatchery in Orfino, I know that's partly tribal, but I know it also affects like the city of Orfino. Are you in close contact with Orfino also?
We have not had contact with the city of Orofino. Their extraction point is quite a bit away from here. But as we work through the process, if there is anything that comes up that seems like that there ought to be a conversation there, we'd certainly engage with them.
Great, thanks.
And then I just wanted to add like the other part of the learning, and it felt like at the PBAC meeting where this was discussed that the Washington folks were as excited, even knowing that a lot of this is happening between the chess pieces on the Idaho side. And it seems like one of our biggest lessons in the research we've been doing and funding is just realizing how many fewer hurdles, or maybe not how many, but there may be fewer hurdles in keeping some of the permitting conversation focused on one side of the state versus the other. And was it the Department of Water Resources that also had ranked this aquifer conversation like tier 2 a few years ago in the government, in the forwarding recommendations to the governor? Like we've been considered closer to shovel ready than a lot of other entities in Idaho's eyes. And so there's momentum in the Idaho side for the conversation. I just want to say, like, as a community, my last cherries on top, like, of my diatribe is having watched the conversation and the Snake River Basin having to start to have the conversation in Southeast Idaho. Like, it's been really, really painful. And I'm really glad that we've had this conversation going for so long, and we do have synergy. So kudos to our community, to our leaders, to everyone involved with PBAC, and just like bookend on this is like, we can't conserve our way out of our water issues. It's not an issue today or tomorrow necessarily, but discovery is a big deal. And I'm really stoked about what number 9, action order. Number 9.
Anything from you, Tina?
No, I'm good. No, I have nothing more to add.
I just want to say, like, I came here in 2000. I started hearing about PBAC then. It's been 25 years. And I know it's slow progress, but just to get to this point is really exciting. Like, we've gone from, I have mixed animal metaphors, from like herding cats to like having your ducks in a row, like, I don't know how that doesn't really, that doesn't really work. But anyway, that's all I can think of is that, everything was very nebulous 25 years ago and continued to be for a long time. And just figuring out what was going on with the aquifer. And now here we are looking at a real plan. It's pretty exciting. I'm sure it's more exciting for you, but
Very exciting.
yeah.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I move we approve task order number 9, Police Basin Aquifer Alternate Water Supply Project.
Second. Can I say one thing?
No, you just seconded that.
I know, but I see Aaron in the audience, and I want to give a shout out for the work that Aaron's been doing with PBAC, and going from the AmeriCorps position to still finishing out your term through other funding. And so I just want to say that we're grateful for the work that you've been doing. So, and I just wanted to give
Nice
you a
call.
public shout out. So.
Thank you, Bryce. All right, Haley,
Aye.
Gina,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Bryce,
Aye.
me, aye. Woohoo, I forgot to vote last time.
You're heady with power.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Tyler.
Trying to keep on the agenda. All right, next on the agenda is the city business office summer hours pilot proposal.
Good
Bill
evening.
Bell now.
As the council is aware, the city does provide a wide variety of services, from police and public safety that operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to utility operations, park maintenance, street maintenance, recreation programs, facilities, and many others. To deliver these services, our small but mighty group of 165 employees employ a variety of different shifts. You run from paramedic firefighters that are working 48-hour shifts, to our patrol officers that are currently working 12-hour shifts, to a lot of our utility, streets, park maintenance operations during the summer months shift to a 4-10 work schedule in order to deliver these necessary services. I've been approached over the course of the last couple years with employees requesting if the city could consider for our office employees some flexible scheduling, especially during the summer months. Very similar to what the school district does for their administrative offices during the summer months. They shift to a 4-10 schedule, and their offices are closed on Friday. So with that, I began conversations with all of the kind of three primarily public-facing offices that would include the Mann Building for HR and IS, City Hall, and then the Haddock Building for planning and zoning, building safety, and engineering, just to kind of get the sense of whether employees would be interested in exploring the concept of a 4-10 work schedule during summer months. The feedback I received was generally very positive. I think it is important for us to consider those things that are relatively no cost measures that can help improve with employee retention, employee recruitment. I'm sad to say we did just lose one of our administrative assistants to the school district, and one of the selling points was the 4-10 schedule during that summer time period. So I do think it's incumbent upon us to try to do what we can to attract the best workforce that we can, and to ensure that people are getting that opportunity to get away and get recharged. So to that end, I brought a proposal to the mayor and council leadership, was to look at an 8-week pilot program to run essentially a 4-10 schedule beginning June 30th through August 22nd this year. This is really just a test for us to have an opportunity to see what works. Are there any challenges we have? Does the public feel that they're not being served, or what are the challenges? In one front, we are providing some hours of service to the public that is outside maybe their normal working hours. So our offices under this would be open at 7 a.m. For full service, and we would close at 5:30. So we would have a full day, essentially an hour and a half outside of the current available work day, to provide services to people that may be working and don't have an opportunity to visit a city office. And then we would close our offices on Friday during that 8-week time period. There are some definitely benefits of, I think Fridays tend to be a little bit more challenging than the summer months. We tend to have quite a few people on vacation or taking time off around those weekends. So those days tend to be a little bit less productive when we don't have our coworkers. Sometimes we depend upon to get our job done. So I do think having a concentrated work period during that Monday through Thursday, we will ultimately be more productive during that time frame. It also reduces employee commutes. I think that's one day out of the week. That's 20% reduction. And we do have a number of employees live out in either as far as Lewiston, Palouse, and other outlying areas. So saving them the time, cost, and effort for commuting one day a week during that time period would also be a benefit. There'll be some ancillary small savings on building operations, with its lighting and heating and cooling during that time period. But I don't think that's going to be significant during this really short time period. But I did present it to the mayor and council leadership. They were supportive of bringing this on to the council for full discussion. So we are here this evening. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions the council might have.
I think this is a good idea. I think it's a nice feeling to know on Thursday nights that you have the next day off. There's something to that. I want us to be really, really good about communication to the world, because if we've got extra time, that's nice to know. Because if I can do what I need to do at the city, pay a bill or whatever on the way into work and not have to scramble and take a extra long lunch. That's huge. But I want us to be good about communication, please. What's our plan?
And that's exactly why we pushed this off to starting June 30th. That gives us 30 days to push out on social media, through our website, through our other channels, our utility billing newsletter, to get that information out to the public, to let them know that during this time period, we'll also have signage up on all buildings advancing for the next 4 weeks that this is coming up on the 30th, so people can plan. And we'll have our staff that have interactions with, let's say, the building department and contractors, to have a conversation about, hey, we've got longer periods of time. It tends to follow a lot of the building contractors that are working 410s. And so
Right.
Fridays tend to be our slower inspection days. So having this 30 days will give us that opportunity to get that communication out there in advance.
Excellent. Good.
Sandra.
Bill, do employees have to do this?
No, so we're going to have some
Good.
flexibility. Certainly, I think we'll have some employees that might have some limitations based on childcare or other limitations. We've also, there are those that maybe not be public facing that may want to shift it from 8 until 6:30 rather than the 7 to 5:30. So some of our IT folks are not necessarily morning people. And so they were eager
Yeah.
to look at the opportunity. And then they oftentimes have to stay actually after business to do updates on our computer systems and our accounting software. You see those BSNA updates, emails often. So this will give them an opportunity essentially to, within their regular scheduled shift, to be able to perform those services. So we know we're going to need to be flexible. We're going to need to be able to accommodate things as they come up. There may be critical large project inspections we have to do on Friday. We will work with our staff to, trade off and make sure that we have those items covered.
Great, thanks.
Got a couple questions. Thank you, Bill. So I want to figure out how I want to ask these. So I am in favor of the pilot program, and I like the idea of like the time frame by which you set aside as it leads up into when the school starts, which I think is August 25th. So like you would be back to kind of normal hours right when that's happening. So that feels good to me. And I also like that it's a pilot program to seek out employer feedback, right? I'm curious, if you get a lot of positive feedback, is this something that will be implemented year round or just during summer months moving forward?
At this point, we would just consider this for summer moving forward. Summer tends to be the time that people use for vacation or
Right.
gone. I think summer, it's more accepted in an academic community like us that it does tend to slow down a little bit. I think it's a little bit easier for the public, for us to be able to serve them during that time period when it's a little bit slower. So if we were to consider this as a success at the end, I think we'd be looking at potentially doing it during summer next year, maybe starting a little bit sooner when school gets out, and then kind of concluding at the same time period. I don't think we would propose this year round at this point in time. I know the district has kind of toyed around with a 4-day school week. Had been thinking about this. About 70% of the school districts in the state are currently on a 4-day school week.
You said 70?
70. So it's fairly significant. And so that's something that's out there. That might be something we'd react to if that ever happened in the future, because that we could have, employees that would have some challenges with childcare on that day of the week. But at this point in time, really summer is our focus.
Great. And I think to that end, sorry, I had one
That's
follow-up.
what, yeah.
So how will you measure success if employers
So we're
like
gonna
this pilot program?
So we'll do a survey of all employees that participate. So we have nearly probably 2/3 of the workforce already doing shifts like this during summer.
Okay.
They're in field operations or it's law enforcement, or that's the vast majority
Right.
of employees. So we will survey those employees that will affect in those buildings where we have that public service. We'll send out a survey at the end of it to ask how they do they like it, what other suggestions, input they would have for us to consider as we evaluate this for the future.
Great. Thank you. That's good.
I want to build off of Bryce's question about the year-round nature of this. I'm a little concerned with, and I still think it's a good idea, but I'm glad we're piloting it because I'm worried about the summer being the time when everything's built. And what happens when we take Friday away and all of a sudden, because it's not there anymore, it becomes the most popular day? You know what I mean? So can we do that somehow? I mean, I want to make sure that we're addressing the needs of the developers as
Oh, yeah.
well.
And we'll make sure that we are covering any critical inspections. But most of, even a lot of our public works projects, the contractors are working on behalf of the city,
Yeah.
they're working 410s more often than not.
Okay.
But we've already had the conversation that if we have critical needs, that can't be filled, that we will have employees that will shift. Some may have Mondays off to be able to come in on Friday to perform
Oh,
those
that's fair.
inspections.
Okay.
The business office itself may be closed, but we will be out performing inspections if they're necessary.
All right. That makes me happy. Thank you.
Haley?
Yeah, the big star says concern, building season is summer. So what is the impact? And so I guess my question being, do we have existing data from the past few years to help us understand? My concern is from the planning perspective. If that is when folks are turning in paperwork or requests for things that trigger.
Generally,
additional
across
action.
all city offices, Fridays are the slowest days of the
Okay.
week.
It's good to know.
I think we tracked the number of individuals that come to the utility billing counter in City Hall, and it's averages 7 a day on Fridays.
Okay.
It's
And
relatively light foot traffic.
And are there other cities who do this? Like, I mean, we're a small enough town, but do you know of other
So there's a
cities?
wide variety of different work shifts that are being explored across the country. Golden, Colorado is kind of one of those examples where they've shifted actually to a 32-hour work week paid at a 40-hour rate for about 70% of their departments. So there are a lot of different cities that are exploring. San Juan County went to a 32-hour work week. We're not suggesting that we were going to work the 40 hours, the same hours that employees currently work today, but there are a wide variety of work schedules that are being out there. There's none in our immediate vicinity outside of the school district that I'm aware of that are running a 410 schedule.
Yeah, I guess I will be very honest. When we were included on the email with the heads up to all staff, city users that this was coming down the pike, like my first reaction was, ugh, because like we are a service organization and we serve a community. It is helpful to know the data backs up. It's important that we do meet the needs of our employees. I'm also aware that like this could be helpful for a childcare shortage situation. And I mean, Lord knows I'd love to work 410s. I'm pretty nervous about it. I'm glad we're talking about it in terms of a pilot project. Communications is one thing. I also am concerned though, it's great that we're talking about surveying employees at the end of this pilot program. Should we move forward with it? I also don't know the appropriate way to gauge community.
Certainly,
feedback and
we'll track
capture.
any complaints that we receive during the time period.
Okay.
So if we do receive those during the test period, we will document those and we will account for all of that, so we can review that at the end of the test period.
Okay. And so I guess it also not just the planning aspect. I'm glad you addressed like if there's urgent building inspection needs, that's great. We are not growing like Treasure Valley. Like even hearing Golden is going for 32. Like that's really incredible. I'm just not sure we're there. But in terms of like planning and IS, like are these departments talking about having someone available on call? And does that also still impact our like budgeting for, overtime pay, or do we already have an IS on call cycle that we use that for?
So the vast majority of the IS positions are exempt under FLSA, and so we always have somebody on call for IS.
Great. Okay.
Now, if the majority of operations are closed that day, it's really only going to be for law enforcement, and they are on call 24/7 for any type of network issues serving.
Yeah, I mean,
services.
I was just thinking even in terms of like a cyber outage or a different kind of outage or something to a city service.
Yep,
function.
they're always
So we
on
have
call.
someone on call already. Okay. I'll be honest. I thank you to well, first of all, like, thank you for city staff for facilitating this conversation. Thank you for employees for mentioning it. And thank you to council leadership for forwarding it to us for discussion. I'm pretty about it. So in conclusion.
Good to see.
I thought, so I did get to go today and pretend to be the mayor at the city leadership meeting, and both of the deputy directors had talked to their staff. And so it was good to hear that they were already getting feedback on it and that it was mostly positive, because I had some concerns just about, mostly about childcare, like how that worked, but it didn't sound like you really got any negative feedback. So I do think, as a city, we really struggle to pay our employees as much as they should be paid. And so whatever we can do to try to make Moscow a really great place to work, for, the city of Moscow a great place to work, I think it's important to try those things. So that's my 2 cents.
So Madam Mayor, like, I'm comfortable giving the direction of like pursuing it with the request that we receive. I don't know what a reasonable window of time is, but a report back at the end of the window
Mhm.
with findings and figuring out how to make sure we capture public thoughts as well.
Can I ask one more question? As I ask a question to ask a question. I'm thinking about a popular destination in the summer, which is the pool.
So all recreational facilities, whether it's a Herc or pool, they run their own schedules
Great.
and they're part-time employees. It's really kind of the four main business offices. You could say that Public Works and Services, City Hall, Haddock, it's going to be those business offices. Police will probably stay open 24/7 because that's just their operations. So they'll be open and available. So it's really those 3-4
Great.
buildings. Their primary, all of the services would remain open on Fridays and weekends like they are currently.
Sorry, Julia. So to recap, it would be like, so in the man building is like 8 man buildings, that one though, right? I'm mixing up.
Right, yeah.
Man, so,
Man building,
so HR,
NIS.
NIS, because farmer's market moved and that's a whole different ballgame
Correct.
anyways during market
Yep.
season.
They run their own adjusted schedule during market season.
Payroll, utility billing in this building.
Yes, we have finance,
Legal.
legal, administration, and arts are the 4 departments in this building.
And then,
Engineering, community development, and planning, and grants.
Bill, we don't really have an action. I mean, there's no we're not voting. What are we doing?
Well, I'd be fine to have the council vote to authorize the pilot program.
Okay, thanks. It just says review proposal and provide
Yeah.
direction. So you got a lot of different ideas there. And does anybody want to vote on?
I will. Oh, go ahead.
I just have one follow-up
Yeah, go
question
ahead.
for Bill that may shape this motion. I mean, if it all goes to heck in a handbasket, do you have an easy control Z option for this?
Oh, we could certainly unwind it and shift back. I just don't know what that would look like. That it's.
I hope we don't need to, but like if someone showed up tomorrow and offered to build, a new subdivision or something that would suddenly trigger all these departments needing to be on hand or something. Yeah.
They can come in Monday through Thursday.
Yeah. Can I just add, I see that this really stresses you out.
Yeah.
I've often had to switch to 410s. I personally hate 410s as a individual, right? Because I've got a pretty great set schedule and I like it. And I hated when I had to do it. That's why I asked my question,
Sure.
because I'm one that's like, no, thank you, but great for everybody else. There's never been an issue. And I've had it at a variety of different
Yeah.
jobs. I've had like 18,000 jobs. I bet 17,000 of them I've gone to 410s in the summer, right? And a lot of them are public facing and public coming in and out. It's never, I don't want to jinx it, Bill, by saying this, but it's never been an issue. People are like, oh yeah, well, I'll come in on Tuesday, I'll come in on Thursday. And with everything now, you can do so much online. I think I get where the stress is coming from, but I think it's going to be okay. I really do. I'm happy for our employees. I know that I'm the only person I know that I work with that hates 410s. Right. And so yay for everybody that you can have that off. Right. It never worked for me. I always end up having to work anyway. So, but yay for those that it might work for. So I'm glad that we're doing this for our employees, for all the reasons that Julia said. And I think we're going to be okay. I really do. And so with that, I would make a motion that we allow you to pursue putting in place this plan of attack to have 410s on this 8-week stretch of summer.
Sounds good.
Second. If we needed a second.
That's good. Anything else? All right, Bryce?
Aye.
Sandra?
Aye.
Gina?
Aye.
Haley?
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm not sure how you record that, Lori. And I say aye.
5 out of 4.
All right, reports from council. Haley, do you want to go first?
Sure. Peaback and dog barf is about all I got. Sorry, I was
Oh.
late. We were gone for 2 weeks. The dogs are apparently sick. So I was cleaning up dog barf, which is why I was late tonight. Anthony, put that in the Daily News. Just kidding. Yeah, Peaback was 3 weeks ago. And we voted on what we discussed there. And Smart Transit is moving and shaking. I'm trying to think. We're getting closer to extricating all of the old ridership data from the previous tracking app and merging it with our existing one. So I will hopefully, route match. We won't miss that anymore. And I will hopefully have some updated ridership numbers for. But we know that the app has been well used, even with students being gone.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
Only because as I was walking today on campus trying to drop off food, everything on campus is like rerouted.
Yes.
Where where are the bus stops near
Like with line.
6th and Rayburn, like on that street and then on Line Street? And you don't have to tell me today. I'm happy to just post it later.
That went out today.
Yeah, I know that on the app, they are able to post the updated shift, and in the cases where it's like maybe like a single day delay where we know from city
Sure.
traffic posting when it'll be rerouted, that is the beauty of Passio, using Passio, is that it's a live update and we can track your bus. I don't remember
Okay.
where those ones are being rerouted, but I know that with the Line Street and Rayburn and 6th conversations, they've had to do a little bit of, I don't know if they're just.
Just we get a lot of traffic there between
Yeah.
Residence Life and the LLC.
Yeah,
That's why I ask.
And Passio is the new app, right?
Passio is the new app.
So thank you. I'll look
case
that up. I
anybody
thought you might
wondered.
know off the top of your head.
Not off
Sorry
top of
about
my
that.
No, you're so good. And everything else I'm in survival mode, guys. So that's what I got.
Right. Gina.
Aside from grandbaby number 4 arriving at the end of June, yes, it's going to be awesome. The only city-related thing I have to talk about is tomorrow is the Tree Commission Day. It's going to be awesome. That's all.
All right. Sandra.
Commission wise, I don't have a lot, but there are a couple cool things I really just wanted to bring up. And one, I'm gonna let Bryce talk about one because we were at it together. So I'll let you take the lead on that one. Although I will say, when he tells you about it, I had a great time. And the other thing that I was asked to do that I've been doing for several years that I just really, really enjoy is the Palouse Prairie Charter School Passages event, where their 8th grade students have to share a series. They pick 6 things that really affected them. Most of it happened when they're in 8th grade, somewhere in 7th, and they talk about kind of their growth and what they learned and what stood out and why they're ready for high school. And it's just, I think y'all know I'm not very hearts and flowery, right? But it's a pretty cool thing to watch these students get up and just give great presentations and just really kind of lay their heart on the line about what was important to them and what they're scared about and what they're looking forward to. And I really enjoy being a part of that.
Thanks, Bryce.
Yeah, thank you. So a couple things, always working backwards because that's kind of my style. So our last council meeting was on May 19th, and on May 20th, had the Sustainable Environment Commission, which we discussed. It was a pretty light meeting, but we discussed tabling at the Farmers Market on June 28th, and they're also going to be participating in Art Walk on the 26th. So be on the lookout for the SEC. And then on Wednesday, the 21st, I attended the Chamber of Commerce luncheon where Sam Volkenhauer, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, from the Idaho Department of Labor gave a presentation on the economic and labor market outreach presentation. And it was great. It was a great presentation,
Funniest.
and it was really interesting. It was really insightful, really fascinating. And I was so glad that I went. Like it was really wonderful. I can pass along the slides from his presentation if you all are interested too. because
He makes economics so fun.
It was so fun. Yeah, it was a great presentation. So if you ever catch wind of a presentation by Sam Volkenhauer, I highly recommend you attend it, not only for the insights, but also for the levity of it as well, especially dealing with some pretty heavy outlooks. But it was again, really, really, really interesting. And I'd be happy to talk more if there are people that are avidly watching near and far. If you want to talk more about it or grab a coffee, I was pretty amped up after that presentation. And then last week we had admin committee on May 27th. There was no planning and zoning on the 28th. And then as Sandra referenced, Sandra and I attended the Moscow Mules rugby end of year party this past Saturday. And it was held outside of Slice on 2nd Street over there. And it was really impressive. So many families, so many people stoked on rugby. So if you are interested in rugby, I highly encourage you to look up Moscow Mules. And I think the thing that really impressed us was just the differing ages that were present. So it's not just like you have to be a high schooler to play rugby. It was seemingly all ages. And I think we were chatting with somebody that their 5-year-old or 4-year-old is about to start learning the rules.
All you have
of
to do is be
rugby.
able to stand.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was a really, really good turnout and impressive to see just so many people so excited about rugby. So and if you're interested in participating, there's definitely a club for you. And then other than that, I've just been enjoying a lot of patios.
Yeah, man.
It's been a delightful late spring, early summer. So thank you.
Julia, can I add one thing?
Yeah.
Saturday is the Officer Lee Newell Kid Safety Fair. So if
Thank
you
you
need
for the
any-
reminder.
Yes, I didn't want to forget the look ahead from 11 to 2. Nope, 10 to 2. It's on my calendar.
It's all day.
And that's
Go
all-
by the
that's the one-
Safeway parking lot.
Safeway parking
Safeway
lot,
parking lot.
get fitted for free helmet, and it's just like, it's one of my favorite
Mhm.
events. Would recommend.
Yep.
Yeah, great event.
Go for it, Julia.
All right. Well, I have a question about that rugby group. Is it co-ed?
Didn't seem,
It didn't seem to be, right? Was it? I don't
I don't think
there
it was, but I don't know that they wouldn't be interested in not starting one.
I just wondered.
Yeah,
All right.
that's a great question.
the
My
teams that we
lovely
all-
children. One of my lovely girls decided to play rugby this
Yeah.
year. Which
Yeah, the
scared
teams
me,
that,
but-
that were all being recognized were all male.
Okay.
At least when we were there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, since the last meeting, last city council, I had Human Rights Commission. We talked about Juneteenth. We talked about the year ahead and how we're going to support human rights in the region. And well, with Latah County, Latah County Human Rights Task Force too, they participate in the meetings as well. And so some of those things are group efforts. There will be a food drive in August, both at the Farmers Market and at East City Park. And we have Juneteenth coming up on the 19th of June. And there'll be a celebration of Juneteenth down at Friendship Square.
Do you know what time it starts? I don't mean to put you on the spot. I'm
Sorry, I don't
Yeah,
know what
no, I
time
feel
I
like-
have it. I have it. I do have this one. It is 11 to 1.
Great. Thank you.
I was going to say lunchtime, but
That would be right on then.
all right. I also went to the Clearwater Economic Development Association as part of council. That is the economic development agency for 5-county region. And we talked about all the things that they've done in the past year and their success at the University of Idaho Dream It, Do It conference, where they have hundreds of high school students come talk to potential employers and people from different fields about careers and how to get from high school to a career. And that is always a really great event. They're also doing the Conservation Corps. What's the first one? Idaho Youth Conservation Corps program, which is a great program for our area where high school kids can do mostly trail work around the region and get good life skills there. And then this week I have Fair and Affordable Housing Commission on Thursday. Should be an exciting meeting. Lots going on with fair and affordable housing. So that's about it. All right. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Do you have anything from staff?
Do I have anything from staff? See,
No, I was just
I
going to
knew that.
clarify that the Lee Newbill Safety Fair is from 10 to 2.
10 to 2.
On
Thank
Saturday.
you.
I move we adjourn.
Second,
Oh, I'm
third.
having fun.
All in favor of
Aye.
adjourning?
Aye.
All right.
Shot, Madam Mayor.